In these days of fast, noisy travel, discovering Britain's canals and rivers is the ideal way to relax, as well as a chance to meander through some of our most picturesque and seldom seen countryside. As a narrowboat enthusiast myself, I can vouch that every single day is full and most certainly fulfilling. But, as our first canal builder, the Duke of Bridgewater, said, water is a good friend and a bad enemy. So, the purpose of this short film is to outline the best way to enjoy your boating holiday safely. It's called the Waterways Code. Young children should wear buoyancy aids when on deck or close to the water's edge. And make sure you know where to lay hands on the appropriate safety equipment in case there's an emergency. Pass other boats on the right wherever possible. Everyone associates canals with locks. You'll find them singly or in groups known as flights. Generally a stone or brick-built chamber, a lock has gates at either end which enables boats to travel up and downhill on the canals by raising or lowering the water level. Although there are several different kinds of locks, going through them always follows the same basic principles. This narrow lock is typical. Here the boat is on its way downhill and entering a lock already full of water. Close the top gates behind you and lower the boat by emptying the lock. You do this by operating the winding gear on the bottom gates, which can be wound up or down with a windlass, or lock key as it's also known. Boat yards provide them with their hire boats. Always remember to pick the windlass up again before you leave the lock side. The winding gear operates special sluices known as paddles, which allow water in or out of the lock, rather like filling a bath by opening taps and putting the plug in. Take your time and don't hurry at locks. That's when mistakes happen. If you should get confused, shut all the paddles and stop to think. When collecting your boat, the hire operator will give you more detailed advice. Going downhill, be careful to keep clear of the sill below the top gates, as the back of your boat could get caught on it when the lock's emptying. Once the lock's empty, open the bottom gates by pushing, not pulling, against the balance beam and steer your boat out. Never use your feet to push the boat off inside the lock. Shut the gates after the boat and make sure each paddle is wound down. Make a final check that all paddles and gates are closed and reboard from the back of the boat. Moving off is easy here, but at times you may need a pole to push the boat clear of the bank. Around the country, you'll find lots of different types of winding gear. All work on the same basic principle and are easy to use. There are two main types, the hydraulic you've just seen, and rack and pinion gearing. On the rack and pinion type, first ensure you've engaged the safety catch to prevent the gearing slipping whilst winding. Make sure you fit the windlass securely on the spindle and always wind paddles back down, as dropping can damage them. Once wound up, take your windlass off the spindle so there's no chance of it flying off and hitting someone. Some locks have paddles on the gates as well as the conventional ground paddles. Should you come across gate paddles on your way uphill, first of all partly fill the lock by opening the ground paddles, which release water close to the bottom. Only when the lock is half filled should you open the gate paddles, as they release a torrent of water to completely fill the lock. Where possible, keep your boat back from these gates, as water could pour in from above and flood the front end. Remember, if you're unsure about the procedure, always give the lock plenty of time to fill before opening the gate paddles. Here the boat is going uphill and approaching another type of lock you're likely to encounter, the broad lock. To conserve precious water, always try to share a broad lock with another boat. Where possible, steel boats should enter first. Then it's the same basic principle as before. Shut the bottom gates, lower paddles, up to the other end, and open the top ground paddles. While the lock's filling, hold your boat secure by using throttle and rope, but don't tie up. Then lower the top paddles, open the gates, and we're away. Feature on some canals is the swing bridge. Like most things on the waterways, it's all to do with common sense. While your boat maneuvers into the center of the canal for the best approach, unhook the retaining chain, cross over to the opposite bank, and give the bridge a steady heave. Don't overdo it though, as it could bounce back. Make sure the bridge is fully open and hold it steady before calling your boat through. Then it's the reverse procedure. Chain back on and reboard at the rear, from the towpath side where possible. Another special type of bridge you may come across is the lift bridge. On your approach, check that no one is on the roof of your boat. Counterbalancing means all you have to do to raise the bridge is to pull on the chain, and keep it securely raised by sitting on the end until the boat's through and well clear before gently lowering the bridge. Only you and adult crew should operate the bridge, not children or passers-by. Where there are no bollards or mooring rings to tie up at, hammer in mooring pins on the canal side of the towpath to avoid the rope obstructing walkers or cyclists. Note the knot, another good reason to play this tape again, in slow motion perhaps. Now of course boating holidays are all about relaxation, and what better place for a break and a pint than at one of the many canal-side pubs. There's never one too far away. Well, must get on. beautiful and relaxing. And moving on to a river from the canal opens up more intriguing aspects of your boating holiday. Wherever you are, it's always worth having a chat with the lockkeeper about special local conditions, such as flood levels or tides. Very kind of one of the lockkeepers to open the gate, but don't allow passers-by to give you a hand. It could be dangerous, and after all, you're in charge. When joining another waterway, remember that craft already on it have right of way, just like when you're driving on the road. Weirs can look very pretty, but are potentially dangerous should you get swept over or stuck on one. Follow the signs and steer clear of the fast weir channel. A feature peculiar to rivers is the floating jetty, and essential to moor at in areas where there's no easy access up the riverbank. The easiest way to moor is pointing in the opposite direction to the river flow, so that the current will help you maneuver, even if it means turning your boat round. And stop neatly in place by throttling in reverse. From time to time, you may find the engine losing power or overheating. Tie up, stop the engine and make sure the propeller has stopped turning. Remove the engine cover and weed hatch and fish about down there. Main culprits are weeds, plastic bags and the like clogging up the propeller shaft. Could have been worse. Don't forget to replace the weed hatch securely. Keep speed down so the stern wash looks something like this. Cruising too fast badly damages the banks and disturbs wildlife. As boaters, we must share the canals and rivers with those who have different interests, each with an equal right to be here. The Waterways Code encourages us to be considerate of all users' activities and leave them adequate room. Back to the canal. I don't know about you, but I still get an eerie feeling every time I go through a tunnel. Check the local cruising guide as you approach. It will detail any special procedures. Allow any boat already in the tunnel to come through, unless it's wide enough for two, in which case you pass on the right. Some of the more sophisticated tunnels even have traffic lights. Put headlights on, clear everyone from the roof and sides, arms, legs and heads tucked in. Then the only thing to worry about is those big drips that always go down the back of your neck. Ventilation shaft, daylight. At the end of the day, Knowing how to use our canals and rivers correctly is well worth the effort.